on this episode of Tell Us a Story. So, Dr. Vic, tell us a story.
My practice of what I do in the quantum realm, quantum physics, that is, but I also bring neuroscience. You can tell I'm a little nerd when it comes to the science of things, but that can be woo for some people. That's how we marry the two together. Success comes automatically, but it all stemmed from there. And we were programmed.
And I think that's where we start to drive off the paved road.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I share some examples of like during the pandemic, how billionaires, I think, grew their wealth by like 56%.
Welcome to Tell Us a Story, the podcast by Belmont City Press, where entrepreneurs and sales professionals share their journeys, insights, and strategies for success. In each episode, our guests reveal how they've overcome challenges, established their brands, and leveraged their stories to promote their businesses so you can too. I'm Red Hilton, your host for this episode. Today I'm joined by Dr. Vic, quantum success coach with Empower Your Reality. So, Dr. Vic, tell us a story.
Love it. Yeah, I'm a quantum success coach. And basically, you know, what that is I help people, if you've ever been stuck, if you've ever been like, feeling like you're just hitting a wall in life and you just can't break it. You know inside you can, but you just don't understand why that's not happening. Or sometimes people get success and fulfilled and they just can't break through that process. This is where my practice of what I do in the quantum realm, quantum physics, that is, but I also bring neuroscience. You can tell I'm a little nerd when it comes to the science of things, but also universal laws and mindfulness techniques and how to break through that. And that's the encompassing factor of what do that. And when we can do that, then all of a sudden we break limitations. And now the whole path and untapped limitation growth of whatever it is you want to achieve in your life, we make that a possibility and
Excellent.
a reality.
So just sort of bring together the idea of, quantum success and, who that is, who you're speaking to, who your ideal client is. And, you and I have kind of talked, and it's like, okay, it's everyone, but define how it's everyone. It's that marriage of woo and science and, how both sides possibly can benefit.
Yes, totally. So if we take out the word quantum, then you just look at a success coach, right? So what do? I help people achieve the level of success of what they desire. When we throw in the quantum word then in there, it's really understanding from two different worlds. So I take a lot of spiritual truth, ancient wisdom, right? But that can be woo for some people. And they're like, business, that doesn't work. So I'm like, fine, well, I'll make it quantum. So now it's quantum physics where we're tapping into that left brain of more, because most business people, especially type A drivers, and most entrepreneurs are like that. We need to get into that left brain and appease it a little bit. Just, to say, hey, there is some science to this process. And there's actually a methodology to it all too. And so when we tap into that quantum element, or otherwise known as the energetic or vibration or conscious level, and we could put that approach to it, that's how we marry the two together. And that's how we can help people get crazy results in levels of success of whatever it is that you as the individual desires, right? So it's not like I'm telling you a cookie cutter system, because with quantum, it is individual custom. You cannot, you can't make it a box and say, this is what it is for every person in the world. That just goes against a lot of quantum rules and just all those things. So it's tapping into the individual and teaching them how the quantum world works. How does that energy world work? And how can you be a better player in it? And when we do that, then, like I said, success comes automatically, because we get to effortless success is what the term is I like to use.
Mm-hmm.
And because it really becomes more effortless. Now, business people look at me and say, this guy's crazy. But when you understand this world, you start to see how you can learn how to rewire your brain and tap in all these other things, because your level of success is all determined by your consciousness level, not by what you do. Whatever you do that becomes successful, it only works because your consciousness level is at that vibration first.
True. I think there's a sort of disconnect between, your beliefs and your actions. And I think I always believe that everybody can achieve anything they want to do, but I think there's self-limiting beliefs, or we throw up our own roadblocks. What do you see people why do they do that? And then, what do you determine? You said success is basically whatever it is you want to do, but why are people limiting their success?
Well, ever since we were a kid, you got to take it back to 0 to 5. And actually, new research shows it's in the womb and the whole
Yeah.
birth process. And this marriages my pediatric chiropractic side of things of what I do. But it all stemmed from there. And we were programmed. Our mind was so impressionable. It's just programmable. I mean, it's a theta wave, brainwave that just is constantly, when we're in that state of mind, we just take things as truth, and kids don't have filters.
Hmm.
So whatever is being told and whatever they see, it just gets downloaded. And some things are great. They're phenomenal. They set them well for success. There are some things that aren't, and it's going to limit them in some way, shape, or form. And so now we go to an adult, and we're in our 20s or 30s or our 40s, even 50s. And where this is where these things will affect you in some way and affect. So let's say it's maybe a limiting belief about money. I had a lot of those.
Hmm.
And so it's one of those things like no matter what I did, no matter how much books I read, no matter how much people I study, right? I listened to all the gurus, did everything they told me, and I just was not getting to the level I needed to. Once I started to go, hold up, I know this thing about limiting beliefs, and I know this to be true that it dictates my life. What if I just go there? And I
Hmm.
did. Within a year, my practice doubled. And I was like, hold up, I didn't do anything different. Right? That my mind, I'm very logical, but I'm very left brain, but I'm also very right brain. So I was like, that makes sense. How did that happen? You know, my mind was just getting all dazzled. But that's the real. So the premise where it comes to limiting beliefs and how it hinders us is all from that 0 to 5. And these are in our subconscious mind. So let me tell you, you as an individual are unaware of these things.
Hmm.
You don't know these are even going on. And that's why it's called the subconscious. And so it's there's methods to how you can uncover them, because a lot of times 95% of our life is dictated by our subconscious mind, which means 5% of your day and your life you are living consciously, which means you
Hmm.
are choosing truly in your power state. 95% you're just doing the automatic day in, day out process.
So it's the nature versus nurture.
Exactly.
And I agree with you that 0 to 1, 0 to 2, I think ingrains in you and sets you up for who you probably are going to become. And
They
it's wild.
say it is. I mean, even Gabor Mate says if you can raise a child up to the age of 3 and give it all that it needs, you've done your job as a parent to where you've built that foundation to allow them to thrive. Because I really believe, I mean, like I said, in my research, it's the birth process and when we're in the womb, this is the thoughts of mom and thoughts of dad or whoever the partner is. It's all what they're going through. That is like the seeds. And then it's when they come out, I always say the seeds, then which one are going to be fertilized? Which one's going to be, I'm not fertilized, germinated.
Hmm.
And it's going to be that's going to spring up. That's going to create that conditioning process. And then it's just a repetition because once the brain picks up on it once, they goes, wait a minute, this is a traumatic event. I don't know. I don't like that. And then it shows up again. Ooh, yeah, I don't like that at all. So that means that. And the brain just starts to associate the two. And it can miss this is not just business. This is life, health. This is everything when it comes to these kind of concepts.
Well, it's all a foundation of with the direction you go in. And you said 0 to 3. And as a mom, in my head, when you said that, I said, well, what happens at 3? And what happens at 3 for most of us is we're no longer concentrating on our children. Now they're daycare or school or preschool. And now we're comparing them to other people. And I think that's where we start to drive off the paved road when it comes to, kids and teaching them. We're no longer nurturing them and what they need. We're comparing them to Johnny and Susie and everybody else.
Exactly. And that's where the whole phrase, I hear mom say this all the time. It's like, what is it? The teen threes or something like that. Um,
A
and
three-nager, a three-nager.
the
Yeah,
three
yeah, yeah,
nature,
yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And so it's like one of those things you think about that, and it's like, well, what are they going through at this stage, right? And now this is that conditioning process is starting to harden. They have these big emotions. And if a parent doesn't have the tools to do work with that and understand that they just have big emotions, we got to help them. And each child's different. Then we can help them navigate, which builds self-esteem. And I could tell when I'm working with someone who's an adult, I could tell how they were somewhat nurtured, as where they were not nurtured, where they were as a kid in their development, because of if they don't believe in themselves that well and they have a lot of self-worth, or they're afraid to speak their power or their truth to the world. They have imposter syndrome or all these other things. I already know. I'm like, yep, there's something in the childhood. Now, it doesn't mean we have to go back to that and they need to know what that is because there's cool things. And quantum is a very spooky, interesting world when you get into it because nothing's linear. right? And that's what a lot of people try to understand quantum in a linear way. And it's like, no, if you do this one thing, that can affect here, but it can also affect over there. It can affect here. It'll affect you, but it'll also affect your parents. It can affect it's crazy what it does. And it's not just my word saying this. This is quantum physics saying this. Like we study the spookiness of the world and just the weirdness and not random, but weirdness of how things just interconnect. And we don't understand how, but we just know this is how it is.
Do you think that people's resistance to change impacts their ability to move forward?
Oh yeah, the mind doesn't like change.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind wants comfort. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll share this from a chiropractic side. Like when I do a certain testing in neurology. And so when I ask a patient to stand on one foot and I'm evaluating something, I don't tell them what foot to do. And
Mm.
they'll always choose the foot, the put down, that is going to be easier for them. And it's a way for me just to teach them, like, yeah, this you're choosing this because your brain likes comfort. It's always going to go
Mm-hmm.
to comfort. And the same thing in our life. Our brain is always going to choose comfort. In business, you're always going to choose comfort. That's why you hear gurus always say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. There's a lot of truth to that because when we can get that fear come up, we can get that little bit of like, oh man, I don't know. You're pushing yourself to what they call the psychological barrier. And when we get to that state, now the choice is if you make the choice to cross over, and then now you're at the next level where you want to be. Or you say, I'm going to do this because this is just, I think this would be good. And it's more of a comfort rather than jumping in.
I always talk about with clients safety versus happiness and how we'll always choose safety over happiness. People will stay stuck in something or do something that is really not serving them because they know it's safe, as opposed to doing something that's uncomfortable that may ultimately lead to happiness. So safety versus happiness.
I love that. So true.
So and when you said, comfort, that to me is, that's what you're choosing. What are you comfortable with? Your safety or your happiness?
Well, think,
Define for people, if you can, left brain versus right brain. And I'm people because I know I'm one of them, and you know which one I am. But I cannot ever remember which one I am. I just know I'm one.
well, left brain is the more logical processing, speech, recognition, all that linear thinking, compartmentalizing. That's more common traits of the left brain. Things have to
Mm,
be, um, very linear. Like, so business is very left brain dominant because it's like, oh, this has to be this way. The medical world is very left brain dominant because it's all
mm,
about, oh, you have this is where this goes here. This is the pill you take, or here's the procedure, and this is how you do it. And it's just cookie cutter system, strategy, all that. And then the
that's a
right
warm blanket to me right there.
Yeah. And then the right side is more like the quantum side. It's totally different. Abstract thinking, intuition, no, not really having a system. It's more about like, so for example, it could be like you feel like this is what you need to do, don't know reason why, you just want to do it today. So you follow what you feel and you go with it. Where a linear left brain dominant is going to be like, nope, today I'm getting up. This is what I'm getting up at what time. This is what I have to do here. This is what I need to accomplish here. This is what I got to get done here. And then the right brain will be like going, let's see, what do I feel like doing today? What excites me? What do I want to get done today? And I'll be like, I feel like doing this. This is where I'm going to go. And then they're going to do that.
I'm
And
having a panic
so,
attack just listening to you explain that. Just letting you know, I'm literally trying to just stay calm because of the thought of someone living their life like that. I'm scared for them.
yeah,
And
right.
it has to be a marriage of both. It has to be.
It does. You have
And
to. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you.
no, I was just going to say, and I don't know that people are always comfortable with that. And I think that's where you sort of come in.
And there's a place for both, right? A lot of times though, when I'm working with clients, they're all left brain dominant. They're in their head too much because that's what it is. A left brain dominant person is just going to be too much in their head, and they'll be like they just rattle things off like crazy. And I'm sitting there going, all right, we're gonna have to slow this down. And I'm like, I need you to get out of your head. I don't know what that means. I'm like, I'm gonna want you to do this. Well, I don't know about that. I'm like, I want you to just center yourself and do this and don't think about what you need. And they're like, I'm not okay with that. And I'm like, I know you're not okay with that, but we're gonna have to, in order to get to where you want to get to, I need to get you out of your programs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get them to a place where we get more in right brain. Left brain's important. I'm not saying it isn't. again, this is like business. So like time when I talk about like business and success and all this, and I've even been told like you're not a business coach is the way I explain things. And I'm like, well, I am a business coach. I just do what I do and I focus on business owners.
Right.
I can work this on any individual because it's all universal stuff.
Hmm.
But it's like 90% of the time, maybe even 95% of the time, everything is going to be your mindset and just tapping in and trusting the process and knowing that all things are going to be. And 5 to 10% is that logical linear approach. So what I mean by that is this is where when my coaching comes in, I'm always like, yeah, 95% of the time, we're not even working on business concepts. We're mindset, subconscious programs, getting into that right brain more, trusting the process more. But don't get me wrong, if I get an individual who I'll know if they're more too much on the right side, they're
Hmm.
like, I'll eventually get to this. And there's no order or structure, no
Hmm.
systems in place. I think it was, I forgot who said this, but like systems is what determines next level. And you got to have systems. It's very important to grow your business, especially to scale. You need to have systems, but it's not like if I have a system, I'm going to scale. It doesn't work that way. But yeah, coming back
Systems
to
don't have to be rigid.
no, they don't. And so it's what at the end of the day, what works for you because that's what's going to matter. So when I'm explaining something, you're like, I'm getting a hard, I don't know how people could live like that. Well, that's fine. Then we work. I have a client that's kind of like that. And actually a couple. And so we're
Mm-hmm.
very like just left brain. This is what they want. And we do that. But I always tell them like, we still have to appease the right side. I need to know what your vision is. So when they're like, I want to do this is what I'm thinking here, and this is the system here, and I want to do that and this, I'm like, good. But tell me, how does that connect with your vision? Tell me how that connects with this. I just want to know that we're connecting to that side first and let that drive it rather than having your mind lead the way because it's not going to, we're not going to, your mind thinks it knows everything and knows, it's very limited in its thinking and expended. When you want to really live a fulfilled life, right brain is where it's going to lead you there because there's no limits to that. That's why I say that's the quantum where left brain is more like Newtonian physics. So you got quantum
Mm-hmm.
physics on the right side, you have Newtonian physics on the left. They're both important to navigate life. But I think, in my opinion, right side is where you can get much more joy and the bliss and fulfillment because you live more in a sense of, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is going to be a fun ride. Let's do it.
Tell me about your book.
Which one? I got three of them.
Well, there you go. Start with whichever one you want and where they can find them. Because I think everyone, regardless of how they're coming at this, feels this is fascinating. And they must see themselves in it because you are one or the other or lean one way or the other. So walk us through what your books are, where they are, how they find them, how they get them, and who they're for.
No, thank you. So this decoding the matrix is my latest book, and this is the matrix is a term that I use that you can call like the human collective consciousness. That's another term for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it is that how is our mind programmed? How does it get conditioned and enforced by the matrix? So you have the whole totality of humanity, which creates a consciousness level, and that creates all the experiences that we all experience together. And then it breaks down countries, cities, states, and all that. But what it does in that book is I kind of break that down to how you can step out of it and not be programmed into it. And I share some examples of like during the pandemic, how billionaires, I think, grew their wealth by like 56% during that time. Or I talk about how in the Greatest Depression, because some people say, well, billionaires, they have control. And I'm like, okay, we'll leave that all out the door then. So then I was like, well, how about the Great Depression? Still to this day, the highest number of millionaires or percentage of millionaires ever created was during the Great Depression. So I use that as an example to say, yes, here's what America went through, but look at what people who stepped out of that and said, that's not going to define me. And so I share principles of what I use with clients to do that. But at the end of the book, I share the importance of why we need to be stepping out of that matrix and what does that mean for humanity and what does that mean for your own spiritual or individual growth, whatever term you want to use, and how it can help you really find that path to fulfillment
Mm-hmm.
and leading a life to where you're not only just finding that deeper roots of fulfillment, but you're allowing others to do the same.
Where is that
So
book
that's
found?
that's my latest book that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Where
can
is
find
that
that on
found?
Amazon. That's for any individual who wants to, for business people, if you want to learn how my basic concepts of what I do for business coaching, I share the five things. I talk about how I work with vision and how it's important to break out of the matrix by utilizing that, how to align to it, how you play that in a different role of your life. So it's for anybody that's looking to really step into a deeper level of fulfillment, but also help others do the exact same thing.
Decoding the Matrix, and it's
Yes.
Victor Manzo.
And you can find that anywhere, Amazon, you name it, it's
Mm-hmm.
all over.
We'll put a link in the show notes. And what else?
My first book, I think, is a great one for a lot of people. It's called Rediscover Your Greatness. And
Hmm.
I share principles of like who we really are in the first chapter. And I try to tackle that. And it's 58 pages. But I break it down to understand how our true greatness is being tapping into that power of our being creative and choosing our life and how that works. And I talk about how words are the fabric to reality, the power of focus, death, and your statement, all these different things. But it's really tapping into really understanding from quantum physics and different universal laws and so forth, how to really choose your life and how to do that. Because that's a mission I'm
Hmm.
on in my life is to share people and help them to understand if you can remember the greatness of who you really are, not Victor Manzo Jr., the essence of who's behind that, the soul, or whatever you want to call that. And if you can understand how to tap into that, your life will drastically change. And it's not my, and I got to tell people all the time, even in the book, I say, this is not my advice. I just studied a lot of different people, a lot of old wisdom, because I believe old wisdom over thousands of years that still is true today is something you probably want to listen to. That's just my philosophy of life.
I think that's good advice. And so that's rediscover your greatness. Where is that found?
Everywhere.
Okay.
Amazon, you can get everywhere. I have it on Audible, ebook, or Kindle, paper. It's all over the place.
So that was your first, and we have your most recent. All right. Who's the middle child?
A Walk in the Dark.
Okay.
So, A Walk in the Dark is about the purpose of that book was to end mental suffering, or at least give people a perspective to see it differently.
Hmm.
So, darkness is something we all face. It can be the dark night of the soul. It can be just challenges in life that really get you worried and fear and all this. And so I share a blueprint to, well, one, why do we freak out so much? And it's about being in the left brain and how limited it is. But then I share principles of how you can sit with the darkness and why it's so important. You see, at the end of the day, you can't really understand the power of the light of a candle in a well-lit room or a
Hmm.
sunny day. The only
Hmm.
time you could ever really see the power of a candle is when you go in a pitch black room because
Hmm.
it lights the whole thing up. And so it's the same essence for us in our life. When we can sit with our darkness and whatever that we're the troubling, the thing that keeps us up at night, the fears and the worries and the anxieties and so forth. And you can sit with that. And the longer you can sit with that, you actually start to tap into that essence of who you are, that light. And what will happen now all of a sudden, whatever you go through, you'll start to see that it helps to serve you in some way, shape, or form. You see, metal cannot, I mean, well, nowadays with all hydraulic presses, we can compress it and move it in different ways. But let's say a diamond has to go through heat, it has to go through proper pressure and so forth to get to the beauty of what it is. So the darkness of our life is actually taking us from a coal to a diamond. And I share ways of how you can do that. And then the importance behind that and how it'll end once you can see that in a different light. And I share stories and stuff, my own personal life and all those other things. That it will understand that everything there is to serve you, to help you, to level up to whatever it is that you want to experience and you chose to experience in some way, shape, or form.
And that's walk in the dark.
Yep. And you can find that anywhere, everywhere on Amazon. It's on ebook, audio, and all those.
And you have an ebook as well.
Yes, I have a free ebook that's called Manifesting Abundance. And so I talk about 5 different quantum physics principles
Hmm.
that can help you quantum leap in your life. And so, quantum leaping is a term that just means when everything is what they call harmonic resonance, or everything's vibing in alignment, right? Two frequencies hit the same tone, then all of a sudden that's harmonic resonance. And
Hmm.
so, when you do that, all of a sudden life just springs up. You manifest very quickly. So, I share what are the 5 principles to that in the book that you can start to apply. And I share a practical tool after each one so you can start to implement today. If you read the book, you can start implementing right there and then to really help people to understand. Because sometimes when I say the law of attraction or universal laws, sometimes I think that's a little woo. Some people don't believe in it and so forth. I'm like, you don't have to believe in it. I'll share the quantum principles of why that works, but I'll share it in a way that you can put together and how you can start to see that how they work from a mindset perspective, synchronicities, and because our mind, again, left brain, we have to appease it a little bit. How you can become aware when things, because when you're in the right vibration and that right frequency, all of a sudden, these little clues come up and they just weird things will start to happen. Sometimes I call it weird. Sometimes it's weird. To me, it's not weird, but my clients will be like, this is weird, doc. Let me tell you something what happened. And then they tell me, and I'm like, beautiful. I love it. That's called a synchronicity.
Hmm.
Um, But anyway, that's for anyone who's looking to quantum leap. For business owners specifically, I talk a lot about business in there to help them. And that's, you can get that. And I have it's on my website. We can give you a link on that.
Yeah. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's, it's like linear thoughts on abstract principles. It's sort of the marriage of two. Um,
Exactly.
all right. So we'll put that in the show notes as well. And they can just go to your website, and it's an ebook, so they can have
They can,
instant access to it.
as soon as they put their information, all you have to do is put your email name and boom, you get it access to download. And you'll get it in either an EPUB or a PDF. So if you like to read, iPad, you want to put it in iBooks or something like that, it'll automatically do that for you.
Fantastic. And people can start making some change, or at least some understandings immediately.
Yeah. And it's a
You
simple read.
also you also have a class, you have a course. Talk to us about that
Yeah.
and what it does, who it's for, and what are the results.
So this is all about, it's a 6-week course, and it's all about understanding the principles of how to manifest abundance. So I know I have the ebook called Manifesting Abundance, but that's tailored more to quantum leaps and so forth. This one is literally, how do you get your vibration right, or your conscious level to the right perspective to align yourself to what it is you want to attract in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it breaks down principles. We get into quantum, we get into neuroscience, we get into all this. We talk about the blocks that hold you back. Because a lot of times when I talk to people, when they want to do like a law of attraction doesn't work, most time they're coming from lack and they don't even know it. Like their whole thing is, what do I don't have
Mm-hmm.
that I want to have?
Mm-hmm.
Right there, you just created a block. So I share how the misconceptions are, what the mistakes people make. And then I put a plan for you to share how you can start to do this today, put the process through. And you can take the course in one day if you want. You get access to it, a whole thing. But it's a 6-week course.
Mm-hmm.
And each week has homework to help you, because I want to not only just give you content and information, but I also want you to make it applicable and be practical and challenge you to be like, okay, here's what I want you to do and focus on now, and just kind of guide them through this process. So it's a different way of thinking about life. Anybody can take this. Business owners can take it. I have business owners that are who take it and they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't see how I was giving in to blockages. No wonder I'm not getting where I want to be. But it can be anyone who can, because again, this information is very universal.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous. And you said the word misconceptions. What are the biggest misconceptions with what it is that you do?
So business again is very linear. When I first got into business coaching and teaching these things, everyone was like, "You trying to sell a snake oil?" Like, no, you got to do. It's action. This is what you
Mm-hmm.
take. And all the gurus, all of them say this stuff. And here I am coming out saying, no, you don't have to do that. And so the misconception is thinking that we have to grind and hustle and put in sweat equity and all the things you've heard. I mean, I've been in business for 15 years, and it's the same thing I've been hearing 15 years ago. It has not changed to this day. I still listen to motivational stuff, and I'm always amazed, like, there it is again. They're still saying the same thing over and over.
Mm-hmm.
That's the misconception, that you think you have to grind and hustle to become successful. And like I said earlier, it's a consciousness level. I share scientific studies and stuff on how that is. Like, you don't even have to work out and you can gain more muscle mass. I'm not saying working out isn't important. It is. Or people who practice free throw shooting, and one doesn't do anything and they just visualize and tap into that realm, and one practices and they tie at the end of the day when they compete.
Mm-hmm.
Neural brain changes. So this is when we look at, well, hold on here. So there is a different way of doing things, and not saying that actions aren't important. The problem is we're just running around trying to think what's going to work and
Mm-hmm.
go listen to what everyone else says. But when we tap into that energy and that vibration, that's where the misconception becomes, because it's like you can just tap in, and then what you need, which is called inspired action, will
Mm-hmm.
come. It'll come for what you want, the idea or the book you need to read, or the coach or the class or whatever it will come to you because it's law. And so the misconception is thinking that I have to grind and hustle. But that's why, and it's a myth, and it's a myth in a lot of ways, because over 60% of entrepreneurs are burned out. And that's by
Mm-hmm.
Forbes. They wrote an article on that. So it's like 60% of entrepreneurs, I think it's even higher, are burned out. That just means you're not aligned to what you're doing or what you're desiring or what fulfills you.
Do
It's
you
not
think that doing that, it's arriving at where you want to be and being able to enjoy it, as opposed to arriving and being exhausted?
exactly. I mean, I was like that. So I went through that. So I know
Mm-hmm.
that firsthand. Um, and then it's like, this isn't fun. I almost left the profession of chiropractic. I was so burned out. I mean, I made the money, more money than I was ever expecting. And I was very successful in many different facets of it. But I was like, this isn't me. This is not
Mm-hmm.
what I want. If this is what it is, I'm not happy with this. And I literally one day looked at my wife and said, I think I may have to walk away. If this is what business is like for this, I don't want to do this. And then we thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Let me redirect things, and let me look at things from a different lens. And then we did. And ever since then, I was like, this is awesome. And success just took care of itself. And I took a 40% hit when I made changes for my practice. But then after that, it was like success just took it was just like COVID hits comes and all this stuff happened. And I'm like, my wife's like, you're really calm. I'm like, everything's going to work out. I got the right vibe. We're good. And 3 months later, we're breaking records. And it's like, I didn't really do anything to make that happen. I just stayed where I needed to be. And
Do
it's
you
a
think
different
the
way. Oh,
Go
good.
ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's just a different way of doing things.
Do you think the word of the day is balance?
I don't think balance. So, you know, the whole thing about like work-life balance,
Mm,
the body's never in a state of balance.
hmm
Your brain's never going to be balanced. It's those. So I would say harmony is a
Okay.
word I like because it's all about there's energy. Like when I talk about like, I teach clients about like energy management instead of
hmm
time management because in life, there's time where you have to put more energy in one thing versus another, right?
Right. And
We're
balance is
always
about equity.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
balance to me is like it's like homeostasis. The body
hmm
is never really in a state; it's always moving around and changing and adapting. Nature's the same way. So I think overall, I look at it more of like harmonic, like a harmony. In other words, is things are all just harmonically working the way they need to in a certain flow.
Great perspective. So, you know our mascot, Monty. I always ask everybody, what is your Monty? What is your phrase, your mantra, the thing that someone can walk away from, our chat here today and, carry with them from you?
So the one thing I love to say a lot is there are no rules to life except the ones you create,
Mhm.
and that
Excellent.
and that'll sum up everything we talked about today.
In one sentence. All right. So let's do some rapid fire. What I like to do is I just like to give you like, hey, here's two options. Which ones are you? Let's get to know like the Vic behind the Dr. Vic. You know what I'm saying?
Let's do it.
So you tell me what you think, and I'll probably just make commentary on it. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Coffee or tea?
I'm an in-betweener, but let's go coffee.
Okay, really? All right. So you do both. It's
I
like
do. It's
Hatfields and McCoy sometimes with people.
you remember I said like everything like how I feel in the day. Today I had
Mhm.
coffee. Yesterday I had tea. So it just varies on the day.
I just can't do caffeine. Doesn't matter
Ah,
what it is.
I hear
Zero,
you.
zero. No one wants to see me on caffeine. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Okay. All right. Laptop or desktop?
I like desktop more.
Me too. I don't own a laptop. Everyone thinks I'm weird.
I have one
Maybe
because
that's
for
not
work.
why, but that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Texting or calling?
Texting.
Yeah, 100%,
Absolutely.
300%.
Yeah.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
City or countryside?
I come from the city, so countryside.
Okay. I don't know what that says, but it says something, I guarantee you. All right. So we do our guest to guest question, and the guest before you left behind a question for you to answer. And I think it's appropriate. It does come from a writer, with a lot of awards, and like that's a lot of a focus of his life. So, and you have your books, and you write, on your subjects as well. So, the question is, how has your writing or creative process changed over time?
Ooh, I love that. It's changed so many ways. Like it's funny because when I wrote the first book, I had a mentor, a chiropractic mentor. He wrote like 3 or 4 books, and when I was thinking, I told him I want to write a book one day, and he was like, "One piece of advice: write the book and don't look back."
Mm.
He's like, because you'll never write it, you'll never get published. And so when I wrote my book, first one, about 6 months later, I was like, went back to reread it, and I go, I would say things a little different. And that was a sign that I'm evolving. Same thing for the second happened. Same thing. The third one, now I look at it now and I'm like, oh, I would change up the way I did this. I would change up the way I did that. I would change up the way I do this. So I think it's just an evolutionary process. And it's a way to like, for me at least, I can look back at where I was and then I can see how much I'm growing from that perspective, which then helps change the way I want to write things. And because like anything else, right, you learn from the experience, you write it all out, you comes out great, you wait for feedback, you see what people like, didn't like, and then you're like, okay, I should have did this differently, I should have did that differently. And it really has helped cultivate me to which I'm excited. Eventually, one day I'm going to have book number 4, one day, when time allows. or when the life lets me. But
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where it has helped me to start to become a better writer overall. When I can do that, because then I'm like, oh yeah, I missed that. But it'll happen the same way again when I write number 4. A year later, I'll look back and go, I should have said it this way. I should have did it that way, and et cetera, et cetera. But I use it
Mm-hmm.
as a tool too to see how much I've evolved. How am I presenting things, and then how could I do it better?
Excellent. So tell us one more time, what is your website?
So I have a link tree. I'm testing out. I had a website for a long time, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know if anyone even does websites anymore. Well, they do, but I was like, so I have a link tree, just link dot, tr. I think it's linktr.ee, but it's / Dr. Vic Manzo.
So
You can go. Oh, sorry.
DrVicManzo.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And we'll put a link to your link tree in the show notes. Absolutely. And that's where they can find your 3 books. Hit me with the titles again.
It's Rediscover Your Greatness, A Walk in the Dark, and Decoding Your Matrix.
Okay. And then you also have your ebook, which anyone can get right now by going to your link tree. Is that correct? And it will
Yep.
direct them to where to go. And that is called
Manifesting Abundance.
Excellent. And your online course.
It's a 6-week online course about how to manifest abundance in a very simplistic way and all that. And it's all up on that link tree. So you get all access to all that stuff right there. The other thing too is for the online course, for the listeners, you guys get a massive discount on it for the class. I think it's only like $37 versus like $4.99 or something like that. So,
and they don't need a code. They just go right into the link tree.
They can go right into the link tree and they can go ahead and do that, and they'll have that there.
Fabulous. Fabulous. So your final thoughts as we close out the conversation today.
As much as we want to control our expectations of what we desire in life, when you try to control things, understand you're coming from a 0.00001% of what you know compared to what's out there. Life is all about supposed to be like, it's like, I call it surfing. You got to handle I don't surf, by the way, just to clarify. But it's handling the waves as they come, and you go with what does. It's like dance with the life and come and knowing that all things always work out for you. For those who don't like to hear that, just look back at your past in your life and see all the circumstances and things that you went through. And you will see, if you look for it, it's there, of how it benefited you in some way, shape, or form. So trusting that process and knowing that, yes, it's important to have, left brain stuff like strategy and all that. But if you really want to step in, and this is kind of where the shift is happening in humanity, if you really want to get into that deeper level of fulfillment, that's going to be knowing how to trust yourself and trust the process as you go along with things.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Well, Dr. Vic Manzo, I thank you very much for your time, sharing your story, your insights with us today. I appreciate your time. It's extremely valuable, and I hope I honored that here today.
You did. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
To our listeners, if you have a story to share, visit tellasastorypodcast.com. If you're an aspiring author, a seasoned business owner, or looking to elevate your personal brand, visit belmontcitypress.com for expert advice on writing your own success story. Trust the next chapter because you are the author. Now, tell us a story.